What's going on, everybody? I'm Matt Dimech.
And I'm Madison Elliott.
Today we're going to be bringing you our fantasy football stardom sit-em picks for Week 4 of the NFL. My first start, I'm going to be taking Devin Singletary. He comes into Week 4 as the RB17. He just had his biggest game of the season, posting 18.5 points. He took 16 carries for 65 yards and a touchdown. In addition, he had 4 targets out of the backfield, which he turned into 40 yards. Singletary's production has gone up every week as the season progresses, and the Giants are taking on Dallas this Thursday on primetime, a matchup that should be favorable for Singletary fantasy owners. The Cowboys have given up the most fantasy rushing yards of any team in the NFL, averaging 185.7 rush yards per game. On top of that, each RB1 that the Cowboys have faced this season, each had their best fantasy performance at this point in the season. I'm expecting a big week out of Singletary.
All right, and for my first start, I have Najee Harris on Pittsburgh versus the Colts. It's obvious that Arthur Smith wants to run the ball, as apparent through Harris' carries in all 3 games. The Colts are also extremely vulnerable against the run. Joe Mixon and Josh Jacobs combined for 310 rush yards against the Colts. So fantasy owners, if you have Najee Harris on Pittsburgh, definitely you want to start him this week.
My next start, I'm going to be taking Juwan Jennings. Jennings is off to a monster week where he just had the highest scoring fantasy position player at 46.50. He hauled in 11 of his 12 targets for 175 yards and 3 touchdowns. And the 49ers are riddled with injuries right now. Deebo Samuel, CMC, and George Kittle are all expected to miss Week 4, which has opened up the door for Jennings to come in and make a splash. San Francisco is playing New England's defense that has struggled to defend against the pass in recent weeks. The Patriots have given up 244 passing yards per game, which is bottom 6 in the NFL. I think the Patriots secondary is going to be prioritizing Brandon Ayuk in their game plan, which will give Jennings plenty of room to operate. While I wouldn't bank on another 3-touchdown game, we can definitely expect to see another Jennings week where he gets a high volume of targets.
All right, my next stardom and somebody who you should definitely have in your lineups every week is Marvin Harrison. He's definitely a lock, especially with Trey McBride and concussion protocol, and it's a safe bet to assume that he will be targeted more by Kyler Murray. Not only that, but the Commanders are 31st ranked pass defense, giving up 255 yards per game. He's got a top-rated quarterback, and he's playing against a low-rated defense. He's definitely a lock for this week.
Now looking at the more sour side of things, I'm going to go with my first sit. I'm taking DeAndre Swift. Swift has been awful all season for all fantasy owners, and it's a trend that I don't expect to go away. Last year, he finishes the RB20 and was a great player to have in your flex. You could rely on a consistent 13 to 15 points out of him throughout the year. When he signed with the Bears this offseason, many expected him to flourish in this Bears offense led by the number 1 overall pick, Caleb Williams. Swift has failed to put up more than 9 points this year. He's just barely rushed for north of 100 yards from scrimmage, and most of his points have come from check down passes for no gain. Swift has gotten double-digit carries in every game so far this season, so the volume's definitely there for him. And last year in games where he had 15, last year in the 15 games where Swift had double-digit carries, he only finished below 10 points once. I think we've all been waiting for Swift to break out and perform the way that we saw last year, but I don't think that's coming anytime soon behind that Bears offensive line.
Next on my cinema, I got any Miami wide receiver. So Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill. Usually these guys are super explosive, and obviously they still can be throughout the season, regardless of if they don't have Tua. But it's probably not a safe bet to play either of them until Tua returns, if he returns. And I would say neither of them are worth starting. L'Jarius Sneed on Tennessee did hold Garrett Wilson to less than 60 yards and DJ Moore to less than 40. So yeah, I would keep both of these guys off for this week.
For my second sit, I'm taking Michael Pittman. Michael Pittman, again, nothing short of a disappointment this season for him. Last year, he was the wide receiver 13, scoring 250 fantasy points, and was off draft boards by the end of the 3rd round in most PPR leagues. Many, including myself, expected the return of the 2023 first-round quarterback, Anthony Richardson, to only bolster Pittman's value, and that, simply put, has just not been the case. Pittman has yet to crack 100 receiving yards through his first 3 games of the season, and on top of that, Pittman's targets have been decreasing each game as the season goes on. The Colts offense is going to have a lot of problems with the Steelers defense this week, who have yet to allow more than 20 points this season. And as far as Pittman's concerned, the Steelers have a top 5 passing defense in the NFL, leaving my expectations low for the 4th-year wide receiver.
All right, and last, I got Jets' Garrett Wilson. All I have to say here is Pat Surtain. He is one of the best corners in the NFL, and he held DK Metcalf, George Pickens, and Mike Evans to only 53 receiving yards for that trio. So you definitely do not want to play Garrett Wilson against him this week because he will be held to less.
Those were our picks for NFL Fantasy Week 4. We hope that you guys take what we had to say pretty seriously, and good luck to you guys this week.